Editing Thorn here with my Bettafish plushie right over here. Upon editing this video, I basically realized that this video has become way too long and the attention span of most of my viewers will probably not be this long. Therefore, I have decided to make it a part 2. However, when filming this video, I did not have this plan yet, so I didn't mention anything about it. This means that somewhere in the middle of the alphabet, the video will simply end and there will be a part 2 available for next week. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm mentally preparing myself for this one. Okay, we can do this. Yes. Hi guys, welcome back to my Therian territory. You may call me Thorn, and in today's video I want to do a fun little challenge that someone had asked me to do at some point, and I really liked the idea, but I tried it and filming that video took me 2 tries. Both times they actually failed, and therefore I was kind of pissed off, so I stopped trying, and now I'm back giving it another go because I do actually secretly really want to do this challenge. The challenge is the Alterhuman ABCs, and I will be basically listing down all of the Alterhuman terms known to the community so far, and I will be naming them in alphabetical order. I'm immediately going to be naming 3 disclaimers from the top of my head just to make sure that you guys know this. First of all, just because I name all of these terms does not necessarily mean that I agree with them in any way or that I disagree with them in any way. I'm just basically going to give out the description of the term that I know best, but it doesn't necessarily represent my view on the term in any way. It's just basically what I have gathered from the opinion of the entire community as a whole. So if I include a term that you do not agree with, or if I exclude a term that you do agree with, that doesn't really necessarily say anything about how I view the term. I basically just listed down all the terms that I personally think are used more within the community. So it might miss a couple of them, or it might include some of them that you have never heard of or anything alike. Second disclaimer is that even though I know that plurality and systems are being included into the Alterhuman community more than ever, I will not be naming all terms regarding systems because that's a whole different list to go down to, and that will make this video very, very long. And I did kind of want to keep the distinction between alterhumanity as in identifying as a certain creature and plurality, even though I do personally invite them into the community just as much as other people would. However, it will just simply make the list a little confusing, and therefore I will keep it separate for now. Now honestly, I cannot remember the third disclaimer, but I believe that the first one has been merged from 2 disclaimers into one, so I guess we've covered it on for now. Let's start with A. Alterhuman. Alterhuman is the umbrella term used to describe the identity of something that isn't typically considered human. The severity of how much you identify as a thing depends on what kind of alterhuman you are, but it basically always comes down to identifying as or identifying with some kind of entity, some kind of object, or some kind of concept. Anything so long as it isn't your physical human self. Animal-hearted or other-hearted. Animal or other-hearted means that you feel a very strong and deep internal connection with a certain being. You heavily identify with this being, or you feel as if you could be family with them in such a way that it does influence your identity. However, you don't directly see yourself as that being. Anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic is used to describe some kind of animalistic being with some human features. Examples of this can be cartoon characters, personas, but even also Egyptian gods. Alterhumans can identify as a more anthropomorphic being. The astral shift. The astral shift is a shift where you feel as if your astral projection takes the form of the non-human being you identify as. This is a spiritual shift because it does require for you to believe in the astral planes. The aura shift. The aura shift is also a spiritual shift where one believes that their energetic field basically takes the form of the non-human being they identify as. Awakening. The awakening is a term used to describe the moment and the feeling when an alterhuman finds out their non-human identity. This is often described as a very blissful period of time because it feels like all of the puzzle pieces that you've been having are finally coming together. Not all alterhumans, however, experience an awakening. Some people have known their non-human identity before discovering the community, for example. B. The berserker shift. The berserker shift is a more debunked shift where an alterhuman basically loses all contact with their human selves and fully shifts into the non-human being they identify as. While there are exceptions such as plurality and some kind of dissociative occurrence, the shift is usually seen as a little more debunked because generally alterhumans cannot lose full contact with their human selves. They will always remain some kind of control to their human selves. The bilocation shift. The bilocation shift is also a spiritual shift where you feel as if you are at two places at the same time. One location will be your physical human self in this world, and the other location is typically your natural habitat, for example. C. The cameo shift. The cameo shift occurs when an Alterhuman experiences any kind of shift that is not related to the non-human being they identify as. They basically experience a shift of some kind of being that they do not identify as. A Therian. A Therian is a Therian who does not specifically identify as one species or one subspecies. Instead, they identify as a whole clan or whole family of species. For example, instead of identifying as a cat, they identify as all felines and all cat types. The connection, however, with specific animals within that species may vary. Clinical lycanthropy. Clinical lycanthropy is a recognized mental disorder where somebody has the delusion that they are able to physically shift into some type of being, most typically but not limited to a werewolf. Generally, Alterhumans are not clinical lycanthropes, but they can be. Clinical zoanthropy. Clinical zoanthropy is also a recognized mental disorder when one has the delusion that they physically and fully identify as an animal. They basically have the delusion that they are also physically an animal. Alterhumans are generally not clinical zoanthropes, but they can be. Conceptkin. Somebody who identifies as a concept rather than some kind of entity or an object. Examples of this are songkin, or emotionkin, or darkkin. A calm Therian. A calm Therian is a bit of an outdated term used to describe a Therian who is constantly between the state of animal and human. This state between human and animal does not change in any way, therefore they typically do not experience any shifts. Copingkin. Copingkin is a term used to describe somebody who involuntarily identifies as a non-human being because they have to cope with something, for example with trauma. Coping link. A coping link is somebody who consciously and voluntarily identifies as a non-human being because they have to cope with something. This is an identity by choice as opposed to Therianthropy and Otherkinnity, which are not a choice. D. A den. A den is a hideout made by an Alterhuman to create the feeling of safety or to connect with one's Thero or kin type. A den can be made both inside and outside the house, and it is typically seen as a place where an Alterhuman can be their full non-human selves. Deitykin. A deitykin is somebody who identifies as an unrecognized or a recognized god. Draconic. The Draconics are a community of people who identify in some way as something draconic. This community evolved separately from the Otherkin and Therian community, and therefore they don't always identify as Otherkin or Therian. A dream shift. A dream shift is a shift where the Alterhuman experiences a dream in which they take the form of their Thero or kin type, or they experience any kind of other shift within their dream. Dual souls. Dual souls is a term to describe a theory that an Alterhuman may have behind their non-human identity, in which they believe that they have two souls instead of just one. One being of their human selves and one being of their non-human selves. E. Endel. Endel is a self-proclaimed term used to describe somebody who has a non-human identity caused by, rooted in, or influenced by some kind of delusion. Extranth or exanthrope. An extranth is a non-human member of a plurality system. They often experience for themselves to look like their non-human selves within headspace, for example. F. Factkin. Factkin is somebody who identifies as another human who either exists or has existed. To prevent issues such as identity theft, there are ethical ways of being Factkin. Fictionkin. A fictionkin is somebody who non-physically identifies as a fictional character or a fictional species. Fictotype. Fictotype is the character or species that a fictionkin identifies as. Flicker. A flicker is a non-human identity that is seen as temporary. Fluid Therianthropy. Fluid Therianthropy is a term used to describe the concept of Therianthropy being different for everybody. More specifically, the spectrum of level of integration, but also how one's Therianthropy has emerged or changed within their lives. It lets go of the stricter idea that Therianthropy is something that you have to be born with, and that Therians with more integrated Theriatypes are distinct from the more traditional way of being a Therian, who would then use the more outdated terms such as Sun Therian and Con Therian. A furry. A furry is somebody who is interested in the concept of anthropomorphic animals, and this can be expressed through art, fursuiting, or even roleplay. A good amount of Alterhumans actually express their non-human identity through the furry fandom. Generally, furries and Alterhumans are separate, but there are some furries out there who feel as if their personas are so incorporated into their own identity that it's still considered non-human. G. Gear. Gear are objects that Alterhumans possess to connect with their non-human selves or to even trigger shifts. The object often has the theme of their non-human identity, and it can often be worn as an accessory, but it doesn't have to. A god shard. A god shard is a person who considers themselves to be a smaller yet independent part of a still existing god. Grounding. Grounding is a term used to describe the conscious effort to go to a more human state, often by using reversing triggers. H. Heart home. A heart home is a location within this world or outside this world that one may feel a very emotional and deep connection to. They consider it home without necessarily having been raised there or having spent any time there. It can be related to the natural habitat of their non-human identity, but it doesn't have to be. A heptagram. The heptagram is a symbol used by the Otherkin community to describe the concept of Otherkinnity. A howl. The howl derives from the Therian community, where a bunch of Therians meet up together on a physical point. It is mostly associated with an outdoors meetup that lasts longer than a day, however any meetup can be considered a howl. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please leave a like down below or maybe comment down below. Or if you have any critique, you can also comment down below, of course. And if you really like my videos and want to see more in the future, perhaps consider to subscribe. And I'll be seeing you guys in my Therian territory in the next video. Bye. A massive thanks to my Therian territory members Bloody Toomey, Daphne Sten, Scar, Shadow the Wolf, Arden Zephyr, Thomas, Voilo, and Waita. Join the Therian territory membership for early access, extra features and content, and more personal contact with me.